Nate's Journal, May 19th, 2014. Dog carcass in alley this morning. Tire tread on burst stomach. This city is afraid of me. I have seen its true face. The streets are extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood, and when the drains finally scab over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth of all their sex and murder will foam up about their waist, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us!" And I will whisper, "No." Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Journey into Comics. As always, I'm your host, Nate Phillips, hanging out here on this lovely Sunday evening. How is everybody doing? Hope you guys are all doing well. So, I wanted to start today by just going ahead and getting right into it. People suck. Why are people awful? I usually keep to myself and don't get into any kind of drama or anything, but I really have a problem with people who think their opinion is the only opinion that matters. I would rather, honestly, I would rather you come to me and say, hey, I want to have a debate about why I think superhero A and his origins are better than superhero B and his. And we can duke it out and have a mutual understanding that we both have points that are very fair and, nothing to take away from the other, and it's really hard to judge. But the people I can't stand are the kind of people who will, they almost go out of their way to talk about things that everyone else likes. Everyone else thinks it's really good. It's like, for example, Avengers, one of the highest grossing movies of all time, right? I think it's like number 3 or 4 all time. All time, okay? Put that into perspective. A movie that came out in your lifetime is one of the all-time greatest movies, and there are still people that legitimately hate on it, that just say all kinds of terrible things. Oh, that was stupid, and it was filled with blah, 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 and this and that and the other. It's like, just shut up and enjoy it. You're in the 21st century now. I know there are tons of options for your brains. But if a movie is good and well-liked by the mass populace, why do you have to be the one guy who's the douche and goes, man, I thought it sucked. It's totally awful. Or, man, oh, you like that band? Cool. Oh, they're one of the greatest bands of all time. They're Metallica. Man, they totally suck. They only ever made one good album anyways, and it was totally Ride the Lightning. I mean, there are people like that out there. It just bothers me. Why have such a constant stick up your ass about how your opinion is the proper opinion? I mean, because it's one thing if you say, man, I don't really dig on Metallica after the Black album. It was just, it seemed like they were just trying to sell records. Okay, I get it. I totally get that. That's a fair argument. But just like dogging and discrediting one of the greatest bands of all time and their accomplishments, it's almost like, are you jealous because you don't hold a candle to their talent? Are you mad because they made it big time? I mean, I'm not a humongous fan of rap or any of that stuff, but I do know that, I mean, as unfortunate as it is, Kanye West is very successful. He might not be amazing, but some people find his music very interesting and different. I mean, um, I will say there was a Kanye West song, New Slaves. It was on his Yeezus album. New Slaves is actually one of my favorite non-rock slash metal songs. Like, it's definitely up there in the top 10, I'd say. Um, so I mean, everybody has their own thing going, and I get that there have to be quote unquote haters, but when you meet somebody who hates everything, like every movie they've ever seen is awful, every band they've ever heard is awful, except for the 3 bands they listened to back when they were 12 and got some sort of creepy emotional attachment that's way beyond anything anybody else has? So, anyways, people suck, and that's the fact. Now, moving on I know this is a segue because this is a segue. So here's the segue. Totally went and saw Godzilla this past Thursday. I thought that movie kicked total ass. It was very fun. It was very classic to the old school Godzilla. It teased you just right. It just gave you just little glimpses here and there of everything that was going on in the Godzilla movie. and you weren't affixed the whole time just watching Godzilla destroying a city or doing whatever Godzilla did. It was, you got little glimpses here and there, and it was a lot of great character building. And, I will say, compared to some of the more senior actors, um, Aaron Taylor Johnson did not necessarily stack up. But again, I've seen him act amazing. He was great in both of the Kick-Ass movies. I'm sure he's going to be a great Quicksilver. So I know he has the ability to play a very emotional role, but they didn't make him that person. So he didn't play the role of someone who was like that. They kept it very limited. He was very, trying to just be the good soldier. And I love that about the movie. It had a very nice, earnest relationship. When you were watching it, you could just kind of feel for the guy, and all he's been through. I thought they built the story great. I thought the natural flow of the movie was good. And I think they did it beautifully in the final 20 minutes of the movie when they just give you everything that you were hoping for. I mean, you go into that movie and you're like, man, I want to see this because it looks different. And then when you're watching, you're like, oh my God, I am excited. I hope they don't screw me and not give me what I want to see. And then they do, and they do it perfectly. And there are a lot of little gems. There's a boat at the end of the movie if you look for it. It's called it's the Go Whales Tour boat. Okay, Go Whales Tour. That makes no difference and means nothing. But whales, the word whales in Japanese or Chinese, I get them mixed up, is Jira. 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 So the boat, if you were to read half American and then half whichever Oriental, I think it's Chinese. I'm really bad with remembering. But, anyways, if you read it, Go in American and then Jira Tours, it's Gojira. Shout out to Godzilla and its motherland. Also, man, that's a spoiler. We did a whole episode of spoilers. I don't want to spoil it. There's something at the end of the movie on a screen, and it's very subtle, but it definitely is an Easter egg and a plug to all the mythos that is involved in Godzilla. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed the movie. And if you didn't like it, you suck. I mean, I don't mean that. If you didn't like it, actually, here's what I would like you to do. And I mean this non-aggressive and non-threatening. I would like you to tweet me or Facebook me or Instagram me. I don't care. Get a hold of me however you want. If you got my cell phone number, text me. I want to have a discussion in whatever form or fashion. I might even have you on the show. If you think Godzilla was a bad movie, let's have a debate about it. Me versus whoever thinks they can do it. I'll Skype you in. Whatever snacks you provide are for yourself, because you're not coming to my green room, let me tell you. You're not going there. You're going to be wherever you are in the world. I'm going to be here where I am in the world. We're going to use the internet to have a conversation, and I am going to debate with you why Godzilla is or isn't a better movie, and we'll let the fans decide. It sounds fair. So if you think you're that person, if you think you have the guts to outsmart, outwit me, or think you have a stronger opinion, I would love to have a great debate. Debating is fun. It's something that I think a lot of people in the modern era don't do. It's just arguments and trolling. People troll on the internet all the time, and it's one of those things like they put like, oh man, the new such and such movie looks like total b-hole. And it's like, another person's like, man, your opinion doesn't mean S, dude. You probably F your mom. And it's like, why did that escalate so quickly? If the dude thought the movie was bad, all you got to do is say, hey, man, I know that's your opinion, but you might not know what you're talking about here. I mean, I'm not sure if we saw the same film. Anyways, we're going to just kind of move on. So today was the practice for Jeffro Jam, which is coming up this Friday the 23rd. Draxus, that's my band, will be headlining from 12:20 a.m. to 1 a.m. at the VFW in Houston, Illinois. Both on my Instagram and the band's Facebook. We did release our entire set list. just thought it was a good little way to let people know here we come, and it's going to be a good one. I want to, again, I know he probably doesn't listen to my podcast, but I do want to thank Scott Wallace and all the people he has that work with him during the Jeffro Jam weekend for all the hard work that they do, because two days is just 2 days is just it's a hard job, you know. So I want to thank you, Scott. Man, you always are really what's the word here? You are always accommodating to us. You've always said yes. You guys are more than willing to play the shows. Um, I'd I'm excited. I mean, it's our first show back in a year, so that's pretty cool. Real quick, a little bit of sausage news. If you don't know, Sausage from Ink Masters will be appearing, which officially looks to be on my next podcast. Me and him had a discussion and determined that, in his own words, he'd like to bring home the hardware before the interview. So he is going to the finals of Ink Master, and if he wins, it's going to be a great, humongous thing because I'm his first interview. And if he doesn't win, we're still going to welcome him with open arms, as he was a finalist in the 4th season of Ink Master. And he's a great dude, and I'm excited to have him on the show. With that being said, we're going to get back into what this show is really about, and that's comic books. We've kind of been all over the place today, and today I have a little topic. Not a topic, it's more of a list, because for some reason I like list and not the composer list. I mean, like a top 5 and doing countdowns. So I want to sit here real quick while I talk to you guys, and I'm going to decide that um, that one's number 1. It's the best. That one's number 3 because it's pretty good but not the best. This one's 4. This one's 2. And, oh, hell. We'll make that one 5 and that one 4. Okay, cool. So I'm back. So now we're officially going to start the list. So today's list is top 5 comics that you may not read. So these are all comics that have been released within the past year and a half, so they're in their current run. Most of these I did not read right away. I got into them, I'd say, all but one series, all but 2 series actually, I got into after at least 10 issues had been out. So, with that being said, here are the top 5 comics that you are not reading that you probably need to read. And here we go. At number 5, we're going to kick things off with the DC comic, which is the Volume 2 Batman. Now, this Volume 2 of Batman is very different. They started off and they were doing a bunch of different stories, and then they got into the Batman origin story as kind of a way to reset the entire thing. And we've been doing this thing 0 year for several months now, and it's really good. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo work on it. Scott Snyder is the writer, and Greg Capullo is the artist. I'm telling you, there's just something special. They have a magic in this book. Not the reimagining of the origin of Bruce and Batman, but how he evolved from Bruce after his parents get murdered to the Batman, also known as the Dark Knight, because he wasn't always the Dark Knight, obviously. So, this book, it just, it flips the script. It gives you really cool insight. They aren't using every single Batman villain and just, blowing it up all over the place. They're being very calm, cool, and collect, and only using certain people at certain times, and building and evolving the story and keeping things very much together. So if you haven't read the new Batman, download them illegally first, and then definitely buy the trade paperbacks or the single issues. I'll probably tell you to do that with each one of these, so give them a shot. You can download this thing called C Display, and then you go on kickass.to, and you can download a CBR file. That's a comic book reader file, and then you can read your comics on your computer. That way, if you purchase the comics and you don't want to damage your comics like me, that's how you read them. I do read a couple of my books when they're new and then put them away forever. Um, Anyways, let's move on. So coming in at number 4, and I was really kind of struggling with this one because, God, I do love the series. And this was definitely one that I was reading right as soon as it came out in its relaunch. Guardians of the Galaxy. Interestingly enough, I feel like I mention that movie and or comic every podcast, but I don't mean to. But seriously, the book is extraordinarily well written. It's well drawn. It's got funny bits in it. It's got serious bits in it. It leaves you guessing. Um, they've done a couple crossovers, which was cool. They did some X-Men crossover and all of those kind of things. So that's really good. What makes this book special is that to start the Guardians, they introduced the Guardians of the Galaxy as the main 5 plus Tony Stark. And that made Tony Stark literally absent from a main story of Marvel because he was with the Guardians. And that created for an interesting mashup, you know. One of my favorite things is he calls one of the ships and is talking to Rocket, and he's on Earth and they're in some other galaxy. And the banter between them is really it's really fun. I don't know, it's different. It'd be cool to see RDJ make a little cameo in Guardians. We'll see. Moving on to a new comic that I have only recently started reading in the past 2 or 3 weeks. This comic is from Avatar Press. It is called God is Dead. Now, the premise of God is Dead is that Zeus comes back to Earth and decides he wants to rule. Yeah, that's fine. He can rule, but there are other gods. And they go, hey, let's all just split the Earth. That'd be awesome, right? One problem, gods are zealous and greedy, and they want all of the love and attention to themselves. That's why they are gods. So they start fighting and kill each other. They all kill each other, except for a few. There are some humans who are alive during these events, and they want to stop these gods. So how do you kill a god? You become one yourself. So they find a dead god, they extract his DNA, they pump it into their own veins, and sure enough, they become gods themselves. And that's really where the story really kicks off. And I'm going to leave that one for you. Make sure to check it out. It's Avatar Press, God is Dead. Coming in at number 3, it was pretty cool to actually get that on the list. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to read it before this podcast, and I got myself caught up. I know so much about that book. Anyways, number 2, Marvel's All New X-Men. Now, what makes the All New X-Men book really fun is that this book takes place after Avengers vs. X-Men. If you haven't read Avengers vs. X-Men, well, the statute of limitations is passed, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, Professor Charles Xavier gets killed by Cyclops. The Phoenix Force takes over Cyclops and kills Professor Charles Xavier. So, with Scott Summers being rogue and going and running from everybody, going MIA, if you will, Beast decides that he wants to bring the original X-Men from like the first book, the X-Men, to the modern day so he can show a young, energetic, passionate Scott Summers what he will become. So time travel. But there are other problems with just bringing the X-Men from the past into the present. They all have their own minds, and they don't necessarily want to go back, which creates for some interesting things to happen. Not going to spoil too much. They're in like their 28th or 27th. They're definitely in the 27th issue. So check it out. Get caught up. All New X-Men. They did some cross-ins with the X-Men comic. They did the Battle of the Atoms series. There's a lot going on, but I tell you what, it's a heck of a book, and I'm excited to see where they go. Coming in at number 1, and I like number 1. I mentioned this briefly. I think on Josh's podcast one time. The one time I was on. Yeah, this book is Chew. Now, let me tell you, Tony Chu is a Sibopath. That means that he gets psychic impressions from anything he eats. He eats an orange. As soon as he takes a bite of the orange, he knows what the tree looked like that orange fell from. He knows the person that picked that orange. He knows what factories it's went to. He knows how it got to the store. He knows that he purchased it, and he is living the moment that he is eating it. That's an awesome power to have. What if you what if you were also a detective, and then, like, what if you were a detective and you had murder victims and you took a bite out of the murder victim and you figured out who murdered him, how they died? Ta-da, that's Chew. That actually is what Chew is about. Tony Chew is a psychopath, yes, but he is also a detective. And he is a detective of awesome. Um, it's a fun series. They have a ton of different. There's a guy who can make weaponry out of chocolate, and he's got some extrapolated name that I can't say. And there are people who can make your mouth water, and you can taste food just by how they write about it. So the series all revolves around food. Also, in the Chew universe, the FDA has illegalized the eating of any poultry. So chicken eating is illegal. No more fried chicken for y'all. With that being said, that creates some interesting problems. People are still trying to find chicken. There's a hybrid called a chog, which is created when they mix chicken DNA with a frog's DNA. Ta-da! A frickin' chog. So, anyways, that concludes my top 5. Again, this is a quick rundown. At number 5, we had the Batman Volume 2 series from DC Comics. Number 4, Guardians of the Galaxy from Marvel. Number 3, God is Dead from Avatar Press. Number 2, the all-new X-Men from Marvel. And to top out the list, Chew from Image Comics. Image Comics also does, you guessed it, The Walking Dead. Speaking of The Walking Dead, if you've read issue 127, I need your opinions. After the events of 126, they go forward in time 2 years and just skip all that stuff. Why? Why would you do that? I want to know what happens in those 2 years. I mean, I'm sure they're going to do this thing where they do little flashbacks and fill in the 2 years in the coming years. But man, like they do, you're just all of a sudden on this new thing. Here we go. But I loved the final panel of that issue with the reveal to who Carl has been talking to and who has been molding Carl's more adulthood. Um, I did find it weird that he's calling Andrea mom now. Like, bro, it hasn't even been 100 issues since your mom's been dead. Like, have some damn respect. At least you got a mom, bro. I mean, really, you know? So, yeah. Walking Dead was a good read. Trying to think, is there anything else I really need to desperately talk to you folks about? Not that I can think of. I introed the show today with some alterations to a quote from Rorschach in The Watchmen. So why don't I end the show with a villainous monologue? Um, and I think I chose this one. So, first of all, let me say that this week, X-Men Days of Future Past does come out. I'm going to be going and seeing it on Thursday. And whenever Sausage comes on, I think we're going to chat a little bit about Days of Future Past. Look for that to be my June episode. And the way it's going right now, I think me and Sausage are going to shoot for an hour episode. So I'm just going to have him on. We're going to talk about comics, and I'm going to ask him questions, and we're going to discuss movies. And I'm sure he hasn't seen a lot because he's been doing the show. So I'm going to go ahead and read this monologue now. And thank you officially for listening to this week's episode of Journey into Comics. My name is Nate Phillips, and I am always your host with the most. You guys can find me on the Instagram and the Twitter at Draxis_Rocker. That's DRAXSIS_ROCKER. Are you a God-fearing man, Senator? That is such a strange phrase. I've always thought of God as a teacher, a bringer of light, wisdom, and understanding. You see, I think what you really fear is me and my kind, the brotherhood of mutants. Oh, it's not so surprising, really. Mankind has always feared what it does not understand. Well, don't fear God, Senator, and certainly don't fear me. Not anymore.